Well, thank you for joining me, Andrew. Thank you for joining me, Alice.
Hi.
Hi, are you back in New Zealand? What time is it over there? Are you actually over here now?
No, I'm still in Belfast.
I
Excuse
was
me, still in
wondering,
Belfast.
wow, you must love me if you've managed to make it at silly o'clock in New Zealand. That's what I was wondering. Thank you for joining me again, David. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Hi, Alice.
Hey, how you going?
I was going to say you two know each other. Welcome,
Yeah.
Krista. Welcome, Liz. Welcome, Kanchan. And welcome, Julius. I think it's your first time, Julius. So welcome. Okay, so some of you have been here before. I know David's a fan, so David's been here for a number of times, but some of you haven't. So yay, some of you haven't. So what I'd like to do is I'm just going to let the room filter in because there might be a few more people joining us. But while we're waiting, why don't you go into the chat and tell me what you'd like to get out of this session? It's something I like asking people because it's always interesting to see what they're looking to get. Now, if what I deliver is what you wanted, then yay, gold star for me. But it could be sometimes you interpreted the idea of the forum today in a different way and you wanted something else. That's really good for me to know because that gives me all the evidence I need to create a future forum meeting with your topic in mind. So please just go into the chat and just put in while we're waiting for a few. I'm only going to wait for a couple of more minutes, but yes. Oh, hello, Surinder. Lovely to see you. How are you doing, my love?
Sorry, I was muted. Hello, everyone. I'm good, Vitali. How are you?
Really, really well. Actually, I should. If I look, do I look a little bit blurry, guys, or can you actually see me in HD? Can you see me, or am I a little bit blurry?
No, you're fine.
Am I good?
There's a big range between blurry and HD, and you're not blurry.
We're in the middle.
HD on, I don't know.
Yeah, there's something up with my camera. I don't know. I just noticed it this morning. It's a little. I'm seeing it. I'm a little bit blurry, but it is what it is. But if you
Maybe
do,
it
if
needs
you
a
have
clean.
any, sorry, say again, Colin.
Maybe your lens needs a clean.
Well, I've already done that, Colin.
Oh, well, that's not bad then, is it? You've done that.
I've even got like a special little cloth that I use to wipe.
Yeah, oh, you're such a pro.
I know, but even then, it's still a bit. But as long as you're able to see the screen, you're able to see me, and you're able to see the slides, then we're good. Okay, so let me just see what some people have said. So, Andrew, you're interested in new ways of using ChatGPT. That's awesome. Krista, more ethical uses of GPT. Oh, I'd love to have a conversation with you at some point regarding what is ethical and unethical with you, because that'll be really interesting. We'll discuss that later. Alice says, I'm looking for tips into incorporating ChatGPT into different writing tasks. David, I don't know a great deal about this subject matter, so want to learn some key features. Awesome. Welcome, Julius. Lovely to see your face. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so let's get started, guys. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And then hopefully you'll be able to tell me that you can see these slides. Can you all see these slides?
Yeah.
Yes, awesome. Can I also ask, just for the first 10 to 15 minutes, if you can all mute yourself, just so we don't have, we all have cats and children and various things coming into our offices when we don't need them to, and it just distracts me. So just for the first few minutes. Okay, so let me just start this. Okay, so welcome to the Thought Leader Author Forum. Some of you have been here before. For some of you, it's your first time. Welcome all. I'm so happy to see you this morning. So our agenda, and we do this at every forum, but like I said, we've got a number of new faces today. So part one of every forum is we discuss the topic at hand. So this week, we're talking about book editing ChatGPT prompts that can save you time, energy, and therefore money, because remember, time and energy equals money. It's as simple as that. And then part two, as always, that's where we have the Q&A section. That's where you can ask me questions, where you can interact with each other, ask for advice, disagree with me if you really want to. Believe it or not, I'm one of the few people who actually enjoys it when people disagree with me. I mean, I don't like people who just like throwing a spanner into the works for the sake of it, but people who genuinely have a reason to disagree with me, I love that because that's a learning point for me as well. And that's the difference with this forum. That's a reason why I didn't want to create like a weekly masterclass or a webinar, because I talk a lot and I get bored of my own voice at times. I want to hear what other people have to say. I want you to ask me questions. I want you to give me your insights, okay? So we're gonna only have about 10-15 minutes where I talk about ChatGPT. Then after that, it's over to you. And I would say the best thing you can do is be really interactive and get stuck in. That's when you can get the most out of this forum. Okay, so this is, let me just give you, and I put a poll. I want to give you an idea of what people are thinking about when it comes to ChatGPT. So I put a poll up on Monday. It's still running, as you can see, 21 hours left. But so far, 62% have said they would not trust ChatGPT to edit their book. Only 24% said yes, and 14% said not sure. This is just some of the comments I've had, and it's really, really interesting to see what people have said. And you might be able to identify with some of this. So we've got Justin that says AI lacks human emotions. So I'm not sure I can trust it enough to edit my book. I think he's right. It does lack human emotion. Heather says, I would use it as part of the editing process, but absolutely wouldn't hand it over to AI. Debbie says, I definitely would not trust AI to do this. We're seeing more and more AI books coming up, and they are awful. Yes, they are. In fact, only just this week on Monday, I've heard the Buckingham Palace have called in their lawyers because several new books have come out since King Charles was diagnosed with cancer. And these books are What King Charles Feels About Having Cancer, written by AI. Yes, Andrew, I've just seen your mouth. I just saw your jaw drop to the floor. Like, yes, can you believe there are people who are actually writing books? Well, they're not writing books, they're getting AI to write books, and they're awful and horrible, might I say. Oh, let me just admit a few more people that are coming into. Okay, they're coming in. And then we've got Martin on the bottom. He's saying AI might be useful to get the juices flowing and the writing process going, but I'm not yet convinced it can edit in a way that supports my message and keeps my voice on the page. AI is smart, but ask it what it lacks, and it's creativity and emotional intelligence. This is so important, and each one of these people are right. The best way to think of AI, especially ChatGPT, but all AI really, is that it's a tool in our toolbox. It's not the toolbox. That's when it goes wrong. If you think of it as it's the toolbox, it's a hammer, it's a spanner, it's everything, that's when it goes very, very wrong. Okay? Just going to admit those people in as well. So I'll keep that in mind. Another thing I wanted to point out, and this is quite important. So this is me giving you a warning sign. So hopefully you remember cartoon me holding up this warning sign. Remember, especially ChatGPT, it's an open source platform. What you don't want to do is you don't want to put large chunks of your work into ChatGPT as is. Because it's open source, guess what it's doing? It's going to take all that stuff and regurgitate it out for other people. So keep that in mind. What my editors do is they take paragraphs or even smaller chunks of text and put it into ChatGPT to check for certain things. They're not putting in full chapters or even half a chapter or even a quarter of a chapter. It's usually paragraph by paragraph they're putting in. Keep that in mind. Now, it could be whatever book you're writing, it is an amalgamation of other people's work. Then maybe it doesn't matter so much if you put large chunks of work into ChatGPT. But especially if you've got something that maybe you've done your own research and you're bringing something new to the world, you don't want to put it wholesale into ChatGPT. So I'm warning you there. Please don't do it. It is an open source platform. Okay. So let's get started. Now, these are just, I mean, I can speak all day about all the different prompts that my editors are using. I'm not going to keep you all day because you've only got 45 minutes. But I'm going to show you some of the best ones that my editors are using and the ones they say that are really helping them and cutting down their time in editing books. And guess what? If you cut down an editor's time when it comes to editing books, they charge you less. So therefore, you keep more money in your pocket, which is what we all want. So, in fact, what I'll do is let me come out of this And I'll bring up ChatGPT and see. Oh, we've got more people. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so let me actually put these in. So this is a very basic one. Most of you might already know this, but I wanted to put it in just in case we do have people who've never really used ChatGPT before. And that is to help you identify errors and suggest alternatives. So this is the prompt that my editors use. Identify errors and suggest alternatives for this paragraph. Now, as you can see, quite helpfully, Word Dictionary is already telling me I've got, oh, I've popped out here. Word Dictionary is already telling me I've got some issues there. Sustainability is wrong, and theirs needs an apostrophe there. But that's all it's doing. That's what I love about ChatGPT. It gives you so much more. So let's actually put this in. Okay. So here's ChatGPT. We just put this in. And it literally goes through and tells you what it should be and gives you a revised paragraph. This is what I really, really like. Because I think the very first time I used ChatGPT when it came out, when did it come out? When it was available to the public? I think it was October, November 2022, I believe it was, when it was unleashed to the public. It was giving a revised paragraph. But then sometimes it's difficult to see, well, what did they actually change? What they then added within a few weeks is they're telling you exactly what they've done. I think, to be honest, what they did was they copied Bard, because Bard started doing that first. And I started to be Andrew's laughing. I started to become an advocate for Bard over ChatGPT. So I think ChatGPT realized that otherwise, if they carry on like this, Bard was going to take over. So they started doing this as well. But it's really, really good. And what I found with some people is if you start using ChatGPT in this way, get them to identify errors, not just create a new version, but get them to identify errors, is it starts to help you with your writing. Does that make sense? It's almost like it's teaching you to write better. So you start getting better with it, using things like apostrophes when necessary, you know, making sentences clearer instead of clunky. Your writing gets better. So ChatGPT can become a very good tool in helping you become a better writer by getting it to identify the errors rather than just change it. Okay, so that's the first prompt. It's the most basic prompt, but certainly it's one that my editors use all the time. The next one is, oh, this is huge. Rewriting in an active voice. Now, do any of you know what I'm talking about when I talk about active voice and passive voice? Do some of you know? Put your hands up so I just get an idea of, okay, there's a few of you who don't. Okay, I'll make this brief because I don't want to sound like I've gone back to school and I'm teaching you again. I'm sure some of you don't want to be back at school again. But if you go back to those days when you're at school, active and passive voice means, so active is when you have a subject in the sentence and it's doing something. When it's passive, you flipped it around and you're saying the object is having something done to it. Now, grammatically, both make sense. But when you speak in passive voice, it's just clunky. There's more words in that sentence and it can be misconstrued. So let me give you a very basic example. An active sentence would be, the cat sat on the mat. So the cat is subject. What was it doing? It was sitting on something. What was it sitting on? The mat. Active. Passive version of that sentence would be, the mat was sat on by the cat. Now, grammatically, it's correct. It still works, but it's just clunky. You've got extra words in there and it's less clear than just saying the cat sat on the mat. Now, that is a very basic sentence. So I don't think anyone would ever be saying the mat was sat on by the cat. It'd be very weird. However, when we're writing content, especially book content, I've noticed, people accidentally fall into the passive voice and they don't realize they're in the passive voice. So for example, let's do this one. So the pollution impact study was completed by the team. The results were presented to the board by the team lead. The board was very satisfied with the work that was done. Sounds okay, but it can actually be a lot better. In fact, let's put this in and see what ChatGPT comes up with. The team completed the pollution impact study. The team lead presented the results to the board. The board expressed great satisfaction with the work performed. Can you see how that sounds much more powerful? We're now in the active voice. So this is a great way, especially if you feel, I mean, if you may not even know, you might say, Vitaly, I don't even know if I should fall into the passive voice. Go and have a look at your last few LinkedIn posts or whatever you've been writing and stick a few sentences into ChatGPT, and it will let you know whether you are accidentally falling into the passive voice or you're remaining in the active voice.
Vitaly, can I ask a question?
Yes.
When writing things like engineering reports or quite technical language, the advice is always to write in a passive voice.
Yes.
For certain topics.
Yes. Let me go into that. I want to go into the
Right, okay, sorry.
I will talk about. No, don't apologize. That is a very, very, and I will explain why that is and why people still fall into the passive voice. But I'll take that in the Q&A section. But really, really good question. Thank you for that, Surinder. Okay, so we'll put a pin on that and we'll definitely come back to it. So I hope you can see this is something that really, really helps people, and it helps editors. A lot of the time my editors spend editing a lot of my clients' books is trying to move them from a passive voice into an active voice. Not always. Sometimes there's a reason for you to use a passive voice, but on most occasions you want to use the active voice. Now, if you can actually do most of that yourself in your book using ChatGPT, you've just given your editor the gift of time, which means they can edit your book faster, takes them a lot less effort, which means they charge you less, which is also great. Okay, so I hope you can see how that prompt is. And like I said, I'm always talking about in book terms because that's what we do here at the Vegan Publisher. We help people write books. So of course I'm going to talk about books, but really a lot of these you can use with all kinds of writing. So blogs, social media posts, whatever it is, use these prompts. Next one is conciseness. That's a huge thing that editors do. I think of editors as people who are, I know the worth of a good editor when an editor thinks beyond proofreading. They're not just correcting. As soon as I see an editor that just all they want to do is correct, I just think, you're not the kind of editor I want to work with. Editors are far more than proofreaders. Their goal is to make your words shine. And one of the ways to make your words shine is if you can say something in 6 words instead of 16, you say it in 6 words, don't use 16. And you need to make it as powerful as possible, so shorten and powerful. So one of the great prompts that my editors use is rewrite this paragraph succinctly. So let's actually put this in and see what it comes up with. So it's taken off a few words and just made it, but without actually removing the power of the words, if that makes sense. Now, what you can do is you can, this is actually an extra tip, you can use this with all of the prompts, is you can go down the rabbit hole with it. You don't have to just take it as it's come with. You can say, can you make it more succinct? Then you might say, actually, maybe that's too succinct. And this is what this is all about, having the human involved. So remember all the fears that people had that I showed you before on the slide? When you just take something as is, that's when it all goes wrong. It's about having the human work. I sound a bit like a dystopian science fiction film now, but it's a bit like merging with AI and working with it as opposed to letting it just go off on its own and do whatever it needs to do. So play with it, you know, say things like, can you make it more succinct? Or you say, or you can say things like, can you make it more powerful without losing the number of words? This, you can play with it to get what you want. Okay, so that's a really good one. Conciseness is important. Just to give you an idea, my editors, if they get around about a 50,000 word book, they will edit out at least 5,000 or 6,000 words without losing meaning. It's not like you're losing concepts or ideas in your book. So if you can help them by getting rid of some of those words beforehand, you're just making it even easier for the editor. And like I said, time equals money. Okay. Persuasiveness. This is a good one. A lot of people are writing books, well, my clients anyway, because they want to persuade people. Yeah. So persuading people to treat the planet better, persuading people to treat each other better, persuading people to treat themselves better. But usually they're wanting to persuade the reader to do something in a different way or to think in a different way. So if you can use ChatGPT to increase persuasiveness, that's going to make your words more powerful. So let's try this one. So a prompt that we use is make this paragraph more persuasive. So let's put this into ChatGPT. Yeah. So you can see it's using things like paramount instead of important, vitality instead of well-being, because vitality is more powerful. So you can see how it's doing that. But then you might think, again, you can actually use more than one prompt. You can actually say, okay, that is more persuasive. Oh, but it's a little bit long. You can actually say, can you make this more succinct? So now you can use the previous prompt with this. So now what you're doing is you're making it more persuasive, but less wordy. So you can double up the prompts or even triple up the prompts as well and play with it to create something that's more persuasive. And again, this isn't about just taking it as is. It's reading through and making sure it sounds like you, or amending it and editing it so it sounds like you. Again, keep remembering AI is a tool. It's not the toolbox. It's there for you to use as a tool, but you still need to have a human being involved in it. Okay. This is a huge one. And this one actually will come back to what Surinder asked earlier. So in fact, I might as well answer your question now, Surinder, because it's kind of very similar to what I'm discussing here. So yes, in academic or engineering reports, it is because I don't know what it is. I don't know where it comes from, Surinder, but somewhere along the line, some bright spark decided that to sound authoritative and academic, you need to have like a distance, I guess. And when you speak in a passive voice, you create distance between you and the reader. Metaphorically, I'm talking about, but you create this distance. When you speak actively and when you speak in a friendly tone, you diminish that distance between. Now, what most of my clients are doing is they are not writing academic books. They're writing books to the average person. So you want to be as friendly as possible. But what I've noticed with a lot of my clients, and I've been publishing people since 2018 now, I've published over 40 authors. I will speak to people, and honestly, I will speak to them on like this, and they're the nicest, most friendliest people, like you, Surinder, lovely, friendly, and chatty. I go off and they go and write a book, and they hand it in to me, and I'm thinking, my God, have you swallowed an English professor between the last time I spoke to you and now? And it's like, it's almost subconsciously, they feel they need to write in a very specific way. It's like, oh, I need authority. I'm an author now. Yes, if you're writing to an academic, you know, if your target audience is academics, or like you said, Surinder, with engineering reports, if that's what engineers expect, then of course that's how you need to write. But if for most people, you're writing to the average person, so therefore that alienates them. Writing in that very kind of authoritative, cold, passive voice is alienating. Well, you actually remember these books are designed to brand you. Do you want to be seen as someone who's like cold and unapproachable, or do you want to be seen as like, hey, Surinder's really cool, isn't she? She's so nice. I'd love to work with her. There you go. So this is a great one that my editors do all the time. Rewrite in a friendly voice. Now, this is quite funny as well because ChatGPT goes a little bit too far sometimes. So let's actually try this. It's going to be interesting. So as it goes a little bit too far, and this is when you've got to go, okay, you're being too friendly, ChatGPT, I need to change it. There we go. Perfect example. Hey there. Now, would you put that in a book? Would you put hey there in a, no, you wouldn't. So you'd get rid of that. Ever heard of speciesism? No, I would actually say speciesism is the idea that puts humans above all other species, often used to justify using animals for our own purposes. But guess what? I'll probably remove, but guess what? A new book suggests that we need to rethink this attitude if we want to protect our planet's ecosystem. And again, I don't like this well. Why are we sticking well in there? And ensure our own survival. Let's start seeing things differently. But that is, can you see how that's so much friendlier than speciesism, which positions Homo sapiens at the pinnacle of a hierarchy? It's like Stephen Fry wrote this. Do you know what I mean? It's just, there's too many high-level words for the sake of using high-level words. This is a little bit too friendly, but if we just get rid of hey there, and but guess what? and maybe get rid of and, sorry, not and, well, then that's actually a really, really good paragraph. So definitely use that. And again, test out, look at your previous work and put it into ChatGPT and see whether it can be friendly. And that will give you an idea of what you're doing.
I have a question, Vitaly. It's Malte. Hi, thanks for all the info so far. Have you tried around with like prompting ChatGPT in the beginning of kind of like the style of writing? So instead of like rewriting it afterwards, kind of like learning your AI bot what your language is, and then kind of like have it to go from the beginning into everything rather than like doing it at the end?
Yes, I will address that in the Q&A section, Malte. Thank you for joining me. And yes, that's a very, very good question. You can only do that with the paid version of ChatGPT, but yes, you can do that. Thank you, Malte. Okay, so this is another big one. So again, this kind of follows on for the last one, which was to be more friendly, to sound more friendly. Adding contractions. Contractions are, for example, instead of saying I am, using I'm. Instead of saying we have, using we've. Again, when you use contractions, you sound so much friendlier. And again, remember, a lot of the times, unless you're writing to an academic audience or a specific audience that expects you to write it with more authority and be that little bit cold, unless you have that audience, then the general audience will want you to sound friendly. So using contractions, that's a really good one. In fact, let's put this in so you'll see what I mean. Okay, so what it's done here is I can see they've used they've instead of they have. But they won't be successful instead of they will not be successful. It's just basically seeing where contractions can go in. Now, a word of warning, and again, this is a running theme here. Don't let just AI run off by itself. You need to read through and make sure. There are some times that you don't want to add a contraction in. And the reason why is you want to make a really good point. I'm trying to think of an example. For example, okay, this is a really good example. Well done, Vitaly, for thinking this. Okay, so a very, very famous quote. I think, therefore I am. Now, would you add a contraction in there? I think, therefore I'm. You've just completely lost the whole point of that sentence now. The whole point of the sentence is you think, if you are able to think, then you exist. So therefore, in that sense, you need I am to stay as I am. You don't want to add a contraction and change it to I'm. So always read it back. But in general, as long as you're not losing any meaning, then you should be using contractions, unless, like I said, you are writing to an academic audience or a specific audience that expect that kind of coldness and authority from you. Okay. Final one, and I think I've already shown this, is using more than one prompt. So this is taking 2 prompts from previous, so rewriting an active voice and make it succinct. You can do that, and that saves you time. So that's something my editors have been playing around with, using more than one prompt in one go, and it just saves them time. So here you're getting them to do 2 things. You're getting ChatGPT to rewrite an active voice and make it more succinct. So that is something you can play around with. Try putting it. I haven't used more than 2 prompts though, because sometimes when I use 3 prompts, it doesn't, I then have to follow it up with another prompt to make it do what I want to do. So I don't know if anyone has a way of using more than 2 prompts. I haven't figured it out yet, but I've noticed if I use 2 prompts together, that seems to work really, really well. Okay, so those are all the prompts I want to show you. There's more that I can show you, but like I said, we'll be here all day. ChatGPT is a huge subject. So let me just come out of this and have a look at your lovely faces. Hello, everybody. Okay, so questions. So Surinder, I think I kind of answered your question, really, haven't I?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me more about this sort of group of people that you're talking about.
No, so I've got a part-time job as a lecturer in engineering.
Okay.
So I'm forever correcting reports and telling people, like, we've got kids, 17, 18-year-olds who write a professional engineering report saying, I am, I think, So third person passive voice is the expected standard.
Yeah.
But I'm writing a book, or I've been trying to, and it's just the thing that gets pushed back and pushed back. It's on the things I wish I'd known about the menopause beforehand. So I've got a title, I've got a cover, I've got draft
But
text.
definitely you're not writing to engineers there, are you?
No, exactly. So it has to be in my voice. And I've used ChatGPT, and I now have ChatGPT professional account, so you can actually put attachments in. And I very much like your point about the be careful about what you're sharing. But a lot of this stuff, so I'll probably keep my top tips to myself, but everything else is information that's out there, just packaged up in a slightly different way. I use it also for my business, you know, the vegan snack bars, for social media. And I have just basically got a conversation going, which has my voice. So I've given it my brand values. I've told it to be very friendly and engaging. And
You're
then
kind of answering Malte. I hope you're hearing this, because Surinder's doing my job for me, which is great. She's actually telling you how to do this.
So then it learns your voice, and then your next post can be the same. But for my book, my problem is that I started off with a ghostwriter who gave me a lot of content because it was that blank page, and I don't actually like writing. I don't even know why I planned to do this thing. But anyway, now I've started. And then I've got my own. So what I'm trying to do is amalgamate 2 bits of text. And what you're saying about the passive voice, I might keep for like text boxes where I'm giving sort of expert advice, and keep the book in my voice. And then where there are bits of information about a certain vitamin or hormones, I might keep that in a slightly different voice. It's just an idea you've given me.
That's well, you've definitely got something from this forum, and so that's really, really good. But that sounds like a really good idea. And just I think for you, definitely be very aware of falling into the passive voice, because, you know, because you work in the engineering sector, you've got a part-time job, that's what you're doing all the time. It's very difficult. I mean, we're human beings, we're not robots. We can't just switch on and off, sadly.
But we might all be robots soon, so
Also, I'll say I was talking about like a dystopian science fiction future really well, and so we merged into AI. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Oh my God, I don't know. Let's not talk about that.
I get it. Thank you.
But yeah, absolutely. I think you've got the right idea. Just keep an eye on it. It's something that I didn't used to realize. Now I don't fall into passive voice very much at all, but that's only because I'm in publishing and I'm working with people and trying to move text into active voice all the time. But before I got into publishing, I used to write in passive voice a lot without realizing. We just don't know we fall into it. And especially if you're in a field that expects passive voice, it then spills out in other areas of our life when we shouldn't be using passive voice.
Yeah.
It's a very cold and academic way of communicating with people.
Yeah, I quite like it, but yes.
I love that. I quite like cold. You do you, Surinder. What can I say, my darling? You do you. Malte, you had a question. I think Surinder's kind of answered that, but does that make sense? You basically need to get the pro version of ChatGPT. I think it's only, I mean, I don't even know how much I pay for it. It's quite nominal. I think it's £30 a month.
20. Well, it's $20 a month. I don't know if you Brits have different different pricing, but
so it's about £15 to me. It's awesome. I know it's small, that's why I don't remember. But yes, you need to get that, and then it actually learns from you, and it's really, really good at that. The only caveat is sometimes I found that you might want to switch tones, and it's not very good at that. It starts learning a particular tone. And then if you want to switch tones, it can be a little bit difficult. What I sometimes do is I have the free ChatGPT on a different account with a different email on a different browser, an incognito browser. And then that way, if it's doing that in my main account, but it's being too much of one tone, I can then just use the free version on a different browser and see what it says on that. So I'll use the free and the paid one in conjunction. I hope I haven't confused you there, Malte. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. It's like, and we were like curious in that strategy, and like my question really came from, because I tried, like I have the pro version, and I have tried to kind of like set the tone in the beginning, but then what I kept finding out that is I like had to remind ChatGPT over and over again, right? So like a good example was is like, okay, like let's work on this, right? So like it's a particular style of work I'm doing, which was like 500 words, right? Like, and then kind of like those are the chapters. And I kind of like prompted ChatGPT to like, give me this 500 words. And what it kept doing, like it gave me, like, let's say we're on the next chapter, and it gave me an answer, and it was not 500 words. So I constantly had to remind it, although I said it at the very top, like make it 500 words only. So like I was wondering if that's kind of like the same situation with like setting
I
the
get
tone
that.
of voice.
I think of ChatGPT as a bit of an unruly teenager, like lots of Corinda's laughing at me, but
I have to smack it left and right to keep it straight.
That's what I think of ChatGPT. It's like having a teenager. There's so much intelligence and so much potential, but you just need to guide, and sometimes it doesn't want to be guided. So you're kind of like, no, I will guide you whether you like it or not. So you just have to kind of put your foot down. But yeah, that's what I was kind of showing you before, sometimes you put prompts in and then it comes up with something, you're going, well, that's, like the friendly one. It's like, why would I put hey there? Why would you write that? Hey, that's just too friendly. So you have to kind of guide it, and maybe even use prompts. And Krista's laughing at me as well. But it is, I don't even have kids, but I imagine that's what it's like having a teenager, and that they do start to have a mind of their own, but you still need to guide them. They're not fully adults yet. So it's that kind of thing, really. But just keep at it, Malte. And the one thing I've learned with ChatGPT is the more I use it, the better it gets. In a scary way, it's literally learning your brain and how you think. So the more you use it, the better it gets. The only thing is, I will say this caveat again, please, please, please do not put large chunks of text into it, because it is open source and it is learning, and it will spit it out to somebody else. So keep that in mind. You want, as you saw, my editors put in paragraphs. And if it's a large paragraph, they'll even do like half a paragraph, because you want to make sure that, does that make sense? You don't want all of your content going wholesale into ChatGPT, because it will be regurgitated out elsewhere. That's how ChatGPT works.
So the question on that is, if you're putting lots and lots of little paragraphs in,
Yes.
is it not all going to accumulate it all together and take it all anyway? And therefore you have to be selective about what you edit. In which case, how do you select what you edit?
Well, the best bits, that's a really very good question, Andrew. Very good question. In fact, before I answer that, let me actually show you, because there's a few of you that I think I'd love to have a chat with you one-to-one to really help you with your book goals. So let me actually show you how you do that. Gosh, there's loads of people. Thank you, Malte. I really appreciate it. Loads of people getting involved in the chat. I love that. Okay, so let me just go back to my slides. So first of all, some of you might have been furiously writing away prompts. That's fine. But I am going to send you out a workbook called ChatGPT Book Editing Shortcuts. So you will basically get all of the prompts and the examples and how to use it, best practices. You will get that sent out to you. It usually goes out on Thursday morning. So tomorrow morning, expect that, okay? So just to give you an idea, so these are some of the clients we've helped get them amazing results. So they're able to use their books to get more referrals. They're able to land shows. They're able to charge more for what they do. Just because you're an impact entrepreneur does not mean you need to stop thinking about money. The more money you make, the bigger impact you make. So that's a key thing that you want to be thinking of, and how to use a book to do the marketing and sales for you. I've had a number of my clients say it's so nice that their book just kind of does the selling for them. I don't know about you, but I'm not a very good salesperson. I don't like selling to people. So it's much nicer when you have a book that kind of gives you authority and credibility before people even get on the call with you. And this is a roadmap. So we've actually laid out the entire roadmap for you, so we can discuss that and see how your journey looks like with this roadmap. So if you've ever been thought, yeah, I like the idea of writing a book, but I'm not really sure how it would work for me, let's get on a call and we will create a roadmap for you. And this is just a small selection of our Hall of Fame. So just some of the amazing things that some of our authors have gone on to do. They've ended up in broadsheet newspapers. They've ended up working with, well-known influencers. They've ended up on TV as well. So if you want to make the biggest impact and have as many people know about what you do, trust me, writing a book is like a shortcut. I'm not saying you have to write a book. You can do it other ways. You can just go on and create an amazing YouTube channel with 500,000 subscribers, but it's going to take a lot more effort. Whereas if you write a book, it's a shortcut to getting that kind of attention. So I'd love to have a call with some of you who are interested in writing a book. What we'll talk about is in 3 parts. We'll talk about where you are now and where you'd like to be in 12 months. We'll look at what process will get you there. And that's where you can ask questions, such as what Andrew's asking regarding, well, how would I use ChatGPT if I'm putting in bits and which bits? That's the sort of stuff we'll discuss. So you really have a roadmap to success. And the final part, if there is a way for the thought leader ecosystem, that's my program to help you. That's when I can go through things like how long it takes, how much it costs, that sort of thing. If it's suitable, it's not always suitable for everybody, and that's absolutely fine as well. As long as you go away knowing you've got something out of the session, then I can sleep at night, okay? So, and something else we do is for everybody who joins me on a strategy call, you can make one of these donations and the vegan publisher will make that donation for you. So you can choose to give 3 days of medical support to rescued animals, give 1 intensive support session to children, plant 7 tangerine trees for families, or rescue 6 meals for the hungry. So as soon as you come onto the call, I'll give you a link and you can get us to make your donation for you, whatever you choose, okay? So let me just come out of this. I will put the link in the chat now for you to book some time with me. Okay, so that's in there. Would love to have a chat with you. Okay, so coming back to you, Andrew. This is actually a tip, not just for ChatGPT, but really for anything. Read content out aloud, okay? I always say there's something that magical happens when you read something out aloud. When something doesn't sit right with you, it's like your tongue just trips on that section. It doesn't happen when you're just reading. It just doesn't happen. So read it out aloud and you will know when you've got a clunky bit of text or text that just doesn't sound right. That's the bit that needs to go into ChatGPT. Does that make sense? There's some things you can't do that with. For example, passive voice. If you're always actually no, even then it would, because if you read it out, yeah, it probably would still work, because if you read it out, it would sound, you put it this way, people don't naturally go around talking in passive voice. You don't go down to the pub, Andrew, with your mates and talk in passive voice. It doesn't happen. It only happens when you're writing. So even then, if you read it, it will sound weird. It will sound alienating and cold, and you'll say, that doesn't sound like me. That section can go into ChatGPT. I mean, it's a difficult one, Andrew. I see what you mean, that even if you put in bits and pieces, it's still taking it, isn't it? It is. I mean, it's one of those things that I think, was it Krista, did you say regarding how to use it ethically? That was your, it's difficult, isn't it? On the one hand, it's an amazing tool, but on the flip side of it, you are giving content, you're feeding content into ChatGPT. But then another part of it, oh, welcome, Jill. I've just seen you here. Thank you for joining me. You look well again. I know you've been unwell recently. You look great. So you've come out of it. That's good. Yeah, it's an interesting one, because you don't want to give content away, but then isn't that a bit selfish as well? If you're going to use it, you should give back. Yeah. But then at the same time, you worry about how that content's going to be used, I guess. So this is why I always say use it. What do you think, Krista?
Well, they've started to be more transparent, or at least claiming how they're using the content. And I know some of these other AI services say that they don't use the content, or if you have enterprise, it gets sort of confusing. I don't know if maybe like, especially if you're writing for a client like I do, I'm wondering if it's just like any more than snippets that are, not confidential. I'm wondering if I need to just ask the client specifically, I'm using this AI to help with my editing. Is it okay if I paste, if I, use it to edit all of our content or most of our content or whatever?
Yeah, you can ask them, but I mean, you can definitely ask them, Krista. My worry with asking people is it's, do they understand AI enough and how it works to make the right decision. Does that make sense? Because
Hmm.
I don't know what kind of clients
Yeah.
you're working for. You could be working with some clients who just have an irrational fear of AI. There are people who have just this absolute, I don't want to have anything to do with AI. So then as soon as you mention that you're using, they'll be like, nope, I don't want you to put anything into AI because it's going to be used against me. It's going to be turned into some kind of cyborg in the future. It's going to come and kill me. So, you know,
Yeah, and that's part of the
get
fear.
some people who just, so what I would say is when you're, because you're a ghostwriter and editor, so you write for other people. What I would say is go through the book and ask your client, you know, what sections of it is new research that they're bringing to the table. Is there anything in there that's new that isn't said anywhere else? That you need to be very careful of it going into ChatGPT. But you have to remember a lot of.
Great point.
Sorry, what was that comment?
And I was just going to say, I thought that ChatGPT crawled across the whole of the internet. So once you publish this stuff or put it on your website, isn't it going to be crawled all over anyway?
Sorry, Colin, I got about half of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, once it goes live on a website or is published, doesn't ChatGPT crawl all over it anyway?
Exactly. That's the thing you have to. Where the issue, Colin, is you might put information into ChatGPT, but there may be a lag between that happening and you publishing.
Oh yeah.
So in between, if somebody's like these people who are now creating AI generated books on what King Charles thinks about having cancer, despite never even meeting King Charles and asking him what he thinks about having cancer.
Yeah, they can grab it quicker than you can publish.
That's the problem. Once it's published, you don't have an issue. It's sort of like, well, that's if your book especially is on the internet, then ChatGPT is literally scraping the internet as we speak.
Yeah.
So then it doesn't matter, but it's that lag time. So to answer your question, Krista, I would say is go through the book and be honest with you. And that's the best way to phrase it. Rather than just say, are you okay with me using AI? You're now relying on the client to understand how AI works and what its current capabilities are. And I'm not convinced everyone does know. So a better way to word it is, what parts of the book is your research, you're bringing new things to the table? Because there'll be a lot of the book that is summarizing what's already been said elsewhere. That can be put into ChatGPT. But it's the sections that they're bringing in that's new to the table you need to be wary of.
Yeah, great point. Thank you.
Does that make sense? I think that's a nicer way, rather, because I just worry you'll get people just like, I don't want to use any AI at all. Simple as that. They'll even.
And that's my fear too. I don't talk about it with everyone, but there is another.
You almost don't want to, because there are some people who even think, well, if you're using AI, why do I need you? And you're like, it's not the same thing. You know, you can't just put a whole book into AI. That's not gonna. You still need a human being. You still need an editor. There's a reason why I still have editors on my team. If AI could do it, why do I still have editors on my team?
Yeah, I still have a proofreader.
There you go. You know, but some people don't understand that. If you say, well, can I use AI? They'll be like, oh, well, why am I giving you money to? Can you see what I mean? Now you create this whole, now you have to explain to somebody how AI works and how it doesn't work. So I think it's a lot easier just to say, can you, which bits of the book is your research, that you're bringing new to the table, and be wary of those bits. Also, Liz, that's a really good question. Do you have opinions about Veg3? Okay, so Veg3 is an AI that came out, I think, only a couple of months after ChatGPT, and it's an AI specifically for people within the vegan or plant-based activist movement. Because sometimes when you put things into ChatGPT or Bard, it comes out with things that just like we would not say if you're vegan or plant-based. My opinion of it is, if your content is specifically geared towards plant-based vegan activists, then it's really, really good. However, because even though I'm vegan completely, I've been vegan for over 12 years. However, I work with people who are not always vegan. They can be social entrepreneurs, they can be B Corp founders, they can be ethical business owners, sustainability practitioners. So I find that Veg3 it doesn't work for me. I have used the trial and I thought it's good, but it wasn't something that I thought I definitely needed in my business. Does that answer your question, Liz? What are your thoughts? Because you're a writer yourself, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you used Veg3?
I haven't really had the time to really play with it much. But I'm not really a writer. I'm an interior designer, but my business is geared around eco-friendly and vegan
Yes,
work,
sorry,
right?
I'm mixing you up with another Liz. I know. I apologize.
That's okay.
Yes, no. Now I remember. In your case, well, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, but your audience, a lot of your content is all about persuading people and making them realize that a lot of things they're buying unwittingly is actually caused harm to some animal somewhere.
Right.
But therefore,
right.
you're educating. So from that point of view, I think Veg3 could work really well, because that's what Veg3 is very good. It's all about helping you create posts that educate people on what we're unwittingly doing to other beings on the planet that don't happen to be human. So from that point of view, I think it works well. Another thing I've noticed that Veg3 does really well is it's able to not just create content for you, but it monitors content that you've already posted and monitors what's doing well and what's not doing well. So it's actually very, very clever. The more you use it, the more intelligent it gets, and it starts to create content that it knows it's going to get the most clicks, the most comments, the most shares, etc., because it's learning from your past posts that it's created what worked well, what didn't work well.
Interesting. But can you use it as a more general AI as well, or is it really targeted?
It is targeted.
Like,
yeah, it is targeted.
you can't use it for editing, you don't think?
I didn't actually, when I only had a few days to mess around with it, I didn't really use it for editing. I assume it can do, because if it can do all the other things, I assume so. But I don't know. Because I was testing it to see what it does specifically for that sector. That's what I was testing it for.
Right. Okay.
I don't know. I can put you in touch with the founder, actually. I know the founder reasonably well. I can put you in touch with him, and I'm sure he'll be able to have a conversation with you.
I've had a conversation with him in the past. I just haven't had a chance to play with this product, so that's all.
I think they're doing a 30-day trial at the moment, so just
that time passed and I didn't have time, so that's okay. I subscribed and I'll have to play with it and figure it out for myself. Thank you.
Not a problem. And really good. I'm just going to see if I've missed any questions. So there's a really good one from Mark here. So KDP Amazon often reject books using AI. Yes, they should, to be honest. How should you get around this? Well, you shouldn't try and get around this, Mark. That's the whole point. Your book shouldn't be generated AI. It's all about using AI as a tool, as I've shown you, putting sections of it in, and then it's not going to, because it's editing. It's not. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't see why KDP would pick up any books like that.
I haven't had it personally, but I've heard of some people's books having that problem. But if you're doing it, you know, part editing and part AI, then it should get around the problem.
I'm a little skeptical, I'm going to be honest with you, Mark. I'd wonder what those people actually did to get, bearing in mind, like I said, at the beginning of this week, it was on the news that the palace has brought in their lawyers to discuss what they do regarding all these spate of new AI generated books on Amazon about how King Charles feels about his cancer diagnosis, despite the fact they've never met him, never interviewed him, or anything like that. Those have passed and they're on Amazon right now. So Amazon say they're actually coming down hard and rejecting books. They're still not rejecting enough books. There's still loads of books generated almost 100% with AI that are still being passed. So if people have told you they've had books rejected, I'm kind of thinking, what the hell have you been doing for Amazon to actually pick up when they're not even picking up all the AI generated books that they should be doing? Yeah.
No, it's only something I've heard. It's not something I've had personally. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah. If people say that, I just instantly think you've been doing something wrong, haven't you? If someone came to me and said, I've had a book rejected, but I'd be like, what on earth have you been doing? And I probably don't want to associate with you, really, because my reputation will go down the toilet. So, yeah.
Thank you. That's very useful.
I hope that makes sense. Yeah, Amazon they're trying to get better at it. but they're still nowhere near as robust as they should be. So they're not rejecting books en masse or anything like that. Awesome.
Love that.
Have I answered all the questions? So let me just see. What did I miss any? Kanchan, I think Kanchan's gone now, but she said, you know, ethical use and how to prevent content stealing. I think we've covered that. Just be wary. There's nothing wrong with putting content in which you know you've gleaned elsewhere. That's fine. But if you're bringing something new to the table, just be careful, you know, because it is open source. So you just have to keep an eye out for that. So I've answered veg 3. Thank you, everybody. I'm glad. It seems like lots of people got lots out of this. So this is really, really good. Thank you.
Can I ask
Yes.
just one quick question?
Yes.
I'm just asking to make sure I've got it right in my head, and I've already had this conversation with you yonks ago. My second book is written, but it's branded by my old company. So I want to go through the book and take out all the references to that company and update it to where I currently am. So I've got one book about how to collaborate, and this is a book about why you should collaborate.
Okay.
I want the two to be kind of semi-branded and all the rest of it. And I originally thought, oh, great, ChatGPT has just arrived. I'll shove it through there, tell it to take out all references to the old company, and I'll just read through and go, yep, that's join the dots, put a comma. It's not going to be like that, is it? I might as well just do it manually.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, ChatGPT is a tool and an unruly teenager at the same time. It's a tool. You can't just, I found that whenever you put anything more than a paragraph, it struggles, you know, it misses things. So my editors are doing things paragraph by paragraph. But they're very comfortable doing that because that's what copy editors do. I mean, if you can, I don't know, just to explain to people, there's 3 levels of editing that happen in books. So you have developmental editing, that is looking at the overall structure of the book. That's what a developmental editor does. Then you have copy editors, they look at the paragraph level. So they go through paragraph by paragraph and make sure that all works. And then you have proofreaders who are literally word by word. They're checking things like grammar, apostrophes, you know, punctuation use, that sort of thing. So my copy editors are used to working paragraph by paragraph. So it's been very, very a smooth transition for them using ChatGPT. But yeah, anything bigger than that, I don't even have developmental editors. So there are no developmental editors in my team. Mainly because if I need to hire a developmental editor for your book, I've failed you as a consultant, because the whole point is I should be able to help you structure your book to such an extent that you don't need a developmental editor going through and chopping it up to bits and overwhelming you with a load of changes that you need to do. So because of that, we've never really put big amounts of content into ChatGPT. But I can imagine it doesn't work very well.
No, it's given me a real good insight. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's I mean, it's the book is out there. The book's already been edited, so I literally just have to go and take that bit, and that doesn't quite work. So I'll take away that reference. So the only one that can do that is me. So I realised that I've got to bite the bullet.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But yes.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Well, thank you, Emma. I think that's all the questions. Anybody have any last minute questions before we go? Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. I hope, did you all get something out of this? Did you feel like, okay, you've learned something? Please go and use it. Please go and play with it. You know, don't be scared of it. I mean, be scared of it a little bit, but don't be too scared of ChatGPT. It's not going to come and bite you or anything like that. Just be wary about, like I said, anything that is particular to you, any of your own research, just be wary of putting that in. But most of the things you'll be putting in is stuff you've gleaned from other people anyway. You know that saying, you know, do we really have anything original to say anymore? Anyway, it's all from what other people said anyway. That kind of stuff, absolutely use ChatGPT as a tool. And it's, as long as you remember it's a tool and not the toolbox, if you keep that phrase in your mind, you'll do well with it. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks
I'll
for
see you
joining.
all soon.